3, 2, 1. What is going on, snipers? Naeem Al-Obeidi here. I hope you're all enjoying your day today. Let's dive into our daily cryptocurrency content. This is a live stream, by the way, so if this does prolong past the time period that is comfortable for you, feel free to use the timestamps in the description below. That might help out. But we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Verge. We're going to be doing some technical analysis. Bitcoin in a very crucial spot right now. Extremely indecisive sellers and buyers. So we're going to talk about why, and then also looking at Verge and how it had solved an issue faster than most projects out there. And I'm going to talk about why that's important. So first and foremost, let's dive into our Bitcoin technical analysis. We're going to be taking some questions as well throughout this live stream. Let's see how many people we have on, by the way. Oh, wow. We got an awesome crowd here today. That is great. We'll be taking some questions periodically as we go through all of our technical analysis. We've got Andy, Tech Gear, Wave, Coach K, and Chris in the house so far, which is awesome. Now, looking at Bitcoin's technical analysis, first and foremost, I do want to pull up the RSI since we've been talking about this RSI for quite some time now, and we're really watching to see whether or not the relative strength index can cross through into the neutral zone, and so far it hasn't. However, what is positive is we didn't see such a sharp pullback here. We're seeing a little bit of positive divergence as the support levels start to increase. And then what's also nice about what we're seeing is if we pull up this 4-hour chart here, as a matter of fact, I'll actually go a little bit closer into a 1-hour chart and show you how we're seeing some higher highs and some some lower highs and some higher lows, which is forming this symmetrical triangle. And as you all know, this symmetrical triangle is pretty much an indicator of indecisiveness within the market, because when you see these higher lows and these lower highs, it's buyers and sellers fighting to really break past the price levels that we're currently at. So I'm expecting us to see a little bit more of a rally, most likely bumping on top of the symmetrical triangle's resistance right around 7,000. And then I wouldn't be surprised for us to see more sellers come in, bring the price back down. As we get closer to that apex, I think it could really become a very critical point for Bitcoin and where we're at right now in the market, because this right here could easily break out up or down. And that's kind of the scary thing, and that's also the exciting thing, right? We know that the majority of the market has corrected already to previous levels prior to the December rally. So for us to see further downside with Bitcoin would obviously not be the best thing in the world. And what's also most likely going to happen if it does break out down is we're going to probably test these support levels, but most likely break right through, because I just don't see Bitcoin holding these support levels if we do start to see it break past the symmetrical triangle that's forming, because the sellers and the buyers, they're really watching the price right now, and people are realizing that Bitcoin does have the potential to break down to a lot lower price levels. However, people are also optimistic for the bull run that is to come. So regardless of the fact, I think we are nearing the end, because if we pull up this MACD on the 4-hour, what you'll see here is it is starting to show that the sellers are weakening. You can see how it's also forming kind of like a pennant where these lows are becoming higher and higher, and there's just not enough sellers to continue this rally down. There's gonna be a reversal. There's gonna be some positive price movements, and it's just a matter of when, right? Is that gonna happen once we break past 6,000 back to around 5,000, or is that gonna happen soon as we approach the apex with the MACD and the price levels like we saw, for us to see that breakout positive? So that's really what I'm watching right now. I think what we're going to see with the volume is pretty much the volume almost kind of going to zero, because what ends up happening is as you get closer to this apex, people are less apprehensive about trading, and they're less apt to trade, you know, because it becomes more and more uncertain for them. And that's kind of why it kind of leads to that ultimatum to where we either break out positive or negative. So that's really what I'm watching right now. I want to see if we have any user audience opinions. Let's see. Wow, we got a ton of people on right now. Najib Acunio said, yo! Andy Mack said, love how you hold your mic. Thank you, man. I actually have this whole new setup, and this is going to be implemented fairly soon, as you can see. This is going to be a way more professional setup, way better quality, but that hasn't been implemented just yet. I am waiting for the phantom power adapter so we can power this mic and get rolling with the quality audio. Steve Chavez, what is up? Good to have you on the live stream. Somebody said, Silver Jaguar, will someone explain to me why these altcoins have these ridiculous valuations on them when most of them are just an idea and a dream? 1,500 more ICOs by 2019. That's why I laugh at this market. Well, it's just like the dot-com bubble, right? You have a ton of optimistic entrepreneurs in this market. They all want to take advantage of the blockchain revolution. So we're going to see a ton of projects. Now, it's all about which projects are right. And that actually transitions us to our next topic, which is the percentage of total market capitalization dominance between Bitcoin and altcoin, because now we're starting to see Bitcoin's dominance drop. I don't know if you realize this, but we hit 45% and now it's starting to go back down, and we're currently at about 43%, while altcoin dominance is continuing to rise, as we've talked about on this channel if y'all are here. By the way, YouTube is having some issues with notifications, so if y'all are subscribed to the Sniper Soups channel, make sure you also click that little bell button, because that's going to turn on your post notifications. And if you don't know what that looks like, when you subscribe to somebody, it actually turns gray and then there's a little bell. So I just wanted to mention that. I forgot. Somebody mentioned that to me and I wanted to let y'all know about that. Sean Marceau said, hey buddy, what is up, Sean? Claudio in the house. Gonzalo said, what do you think about BCPT? Bitcoin private. We're not going to talk about that today. Somebody says, giving explosive crypto income in this bear market. Absolutely. So in regards to altcoins, I think there's going to be more opportunities in altcoins over the next couple of weeks, just because of the fact that more buyers are going into these alternate exchanges like Binance, and even Bittrex today has announced that it's opening its doors for more users. And I highly recommend all of you go on Bittrex and sign up today, because they can easily close up signups, and what that means is you will not have access to certain coins if you want to trade them, right? Sometimes we have coins on Bittrex that aren't on Binance or other exchanges like KuCoin, and you want to make sure you have that flexibility in this market, especially as we emerge into this new phase of the market where we've seen the exuberance, but now we're starting to see actual intrinsic value within some projects like VeChain, for example, or we'll kind of transition here to Verge. Interesting story here. Verge currency solves blockchain vulnerability in record time. Why is this important? Well, when you're looking at a project, you want a quarterback team, right? You want to have a Tom Brady as your quarterback. You want to have a Randy Moss as your wide receiver. You want to have great players. You want to have the Kobe Bryants and the LeBron James of the blockchain world. And when Verge was attacked with this vulnerability, they were able to, they were really good with how they reacted to it, which is important. So if we were to actually read this article, you can see last week Verge currency stepped into the spotlight of a targeted attack, resulting in a solution which required an intended hard fork to happen. And this has happened to other coins like Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Monero, and several others, and they have had hard forks. So if you don't know, Ethereum's main blockchain is the Ethereum Classic blockchain, and then it forked into Ethereum early or late in 2013. So why? Well, they needed to solve an issue. But what's cool here, you can see your cryptocurrencies took weeks to solve their issues. Verge solved the entire issue within 72 hours, including prepared updates for their wallets. Why is that important? Well, that means you have a reactive team. And as you all know, Verge has been seeing quite the exuberance. So we're going to dive into a technical analysis right now to look at Verge and see where prices may be headed for this coin as well. But what I will say about that whole situation is, of course, projects are going to be able to solve issues faster because now they have something to look back at, right? Ethereum and Monero, when they had the vulnerability issues and they had to make a change, they didn't really have something to look back at that now Verge does. You know, like Verge can look back and say, okay, Ethereum did this and it resulted in this. Should we follow those steps? So it's kind of like that MySpace, Facebook phenomena where MySpace never had somebody to look back at in terms of like a social media platform, and Facebook did, and that's why they became more prominent, because they had something to work off of. So that's why my mentor actually told me this very early in my life. He said, Naeem, you never want to be the first to do something. You never want to be the last. You always want to be in the middle, right? It's like a sphere. If you're, let's say you were to, sorry if we have any vegans, but let's say you were to sphere a bowl, right? That sphere that goes into the bowl, the actual tip of the sphere eventually comes out of the bowl, but the actual rod, right, the solid part, the base, that's what you want to be, because that's where all the meat is, right? So and the end typically never sees penetration. So you want to be kind of like that, that strength. You want to be in the middle, and that's kind of where we're at in this market, right? We had the early innovator phase with Vitalik, Roger Ver, and all the early contributors and developers of Bitcoin and all of these cryptocurrencies, and now we're in this middle zone where there's still early majority and late majority to come, but we're in this early adopter phase, which is awesome. So let's dive into this Verge technical analysis. We're going to take some quick questions really quick. Somebody says, freaking monster for a team, Sean said. Let's see if we have any good questions. Don't be a psycho is on here. He said, Naeem, would you sell XVG before the announcement on the 17th or keep holding? I would definitely sell. So something in the traditional markets, I came from traditional markets, and there's a common phenomena when there are earning calls, right? So every quarter there's an earnings call where the company will talk about its earnings. So typically in the stock market, when a company has really good earnings for a quarter, it immediately follows in a drop with the stock price. Why? Because if something is already really good, then how much better can it get? Does that make sense? So if a company had a really good quarter, well, great, we had a great quarter. I mean, great, let me liquidate my stock so that this next quarter, which may or may not be as good, can be determined upon time. So like this market, in this case, very similar to like an earnings call, right? We're expecting something, right? And that expectation, that psychological expectation, in my opinion, would be best handled by taking profits prior to those that want to take profits. So most people that aren't aware of this, that aren't watching Snipers Tube, that aren't snipers in this community, don't know this. So they're going to hold during the announcement, and they are most likely going to lose out on a potential profit that they could have made if they knew this. So y'all are all lucky for being here, but for the most part, when there's a major announcement and there's hype towards it and the prices go up, when the announcement's made, things drop. It's like Bitcoin Cash being listed on Coinbase. Remember that? It got listed on, everybody's like, oh my gosh, Bitcoin Cash, it's on Coinbase, it's gonna blow up, doors have opened, the heavens have opened, and then it crashed. And I think the reason for that was people didn't realize people were being issued their Bitcoin Cash on Coinbase, and most people just wanted to sell it and liquidate it because they didn't care about Bitcoin Cash at the time. So somebody said, are you still bullish on Litecoin? Lars Wexsung. We have to look at the technical analysis, but I'll tell you I'm a bit more bullish about Ethereum right now. So I think there are certain projects right now that have more bullish sentiment than others, and that's really what I'm focused on right now. Andrea said, good to have you, by the way, Mr. Tell2. I know you're awesome, man. Great developer. He said, oh, that's why I lost money on the latest Apple earnings. Yes. When Apple released its earnings, prices dropped. So you have to be careful with that. Parthon said, what happened to Dash? Nothing happened to Dash. I don't know what you're referring to. Emi said, buy the hype, sell the news, baby. If you haven't written that down on your computer screen, right? Buy the hype, sell the news, because that's going to help you make a lot of money. Don't be a psycho said, thanks, Naeem. Totally agree. Sell the news. Absolutely. Any thoughts on Substratum, Tommy G? So Substratum is a project that aims to decentralize the web, decentralize the internet. Here's my opinion on that. Blockchain technology at its infancy isn't ready to decentralize the web. I think blockchain technology right now is in its emerging phase where it needs to be applied to the most applicable areas right now before being applied to something as large as the internet, right? So I think it's more of a far-fetched 5 to 10 year project, and I don't typically like to invest in projects that are aiming to gain some sort of early or late majority adopters in 5 to 10 years, because what ends up happening is the industry progresses and it speeds up so fast. By 5 or 10 years, a lot of this technology could be deemed useless. And because of that, I'm extremely hesitant to invest in projects that look 5 to 10 years ahead. I like to invest in projects that are more 2 to 3 years ahead, like VeChain, for example. They announced today a partnership with Louis Vuitton, right? Because one of the executives came from Louis Vuitton in China. So immediate use case, right? Great project in my opinion. De-application platforms, very immediate use case right now. You have to have some sort of platform for developers that can code in Java or Solidity to be able to develop their own blockchain applications, and that's why there's use case. So those are the projects I'm looking to invest in right now versus projects that are more far-fetched 5 to 10 years. Not that they're bad ideas, I just think it's a little bit harder to give foresight to a project like that as an investor, and I would rather put my money elsewhere. So good question. Somebody said, how much upside can go with Verge? So Verge is approaching some very known resistance levels here. Obviously, we're approaching this, which is right around 1,336 Satoshi. So what does the technical analysis look like for Verge? Well, here's what I'll tell you. This magnitude that we saw here is an extreme amount of exuberance. And obviously, you never want to buy in the green. You want to buy in the red for the most part, unless you've seen a trend reversal or something of that nature. Like here, we could have estimated here, okay, there was a obvious downward trend here, and then bam, we reversed right here. So this probably would have been a good time to buy. I think we actually made a call on this. If you are following us on Twitter, we actually posted very, very recently, before this huge exuberance, that Verge was most likely going to see some sort of exuberance. We just weren't confident on how much. That's why we didn't make a trade alert for it. We just knew that news was coming. I'm not going to log into Twitter, but that's the case. So follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. It's twitter.com/snipersoup, and we'll post updates like that. But in my opinion, with this amount of momentum, so you can never determine the real magnitude of something. You can always determine price movement, because price movement is typically attributed towards patterns, and patterns are predictable. But in this case, what I would look at, anytime you see this type of magnitude, you want to start looking at the MACD. That's the first thing I like to look at, because the MACD will give you an estimate of how much buyers have already come into this exuberance. And you can see we've had quite a bit, very close to what we saw in December, which obviously was a period of time in the market where we had a lot of volume, and we don't have nearly as much volume or liquidity in the market as we did in December. Therefore, these are very high levels of buyers, and I don't know if we're going to see much more buyers in this. We may, and most likely we'll see a little bit more exuberance, but I don't know if we can continue to see this head even further. But what I will say is this: if it does see a little bit more exuberance and it heads into this new channel here, there may be some potential for opportunity, because that may indicate that it will see all-time highs for the first time, which would make sense because Verge has been one of the coins in Q1 of 2018 that has done very well. So if it does see another period of exuberance, and this is prior to the 18th, what I would tell myself as a trader is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait for the 18th, and I'm going to allow the buyers that have already come into the market to take their profits, because I guarantee you there is a percentage of these buyers waiting to take their profits as we approach April 18th. Therefore, I would like to buy at that pullback, especially if we see a little bit more exuberance into this channel. It would most likely allow us by April 18th to pull back to these support levels, and then this channel can become the channel that I trade. And that's kind of what I'm waiting for right now with Verge. And the reason I do that is because when you have that sort of magnitude, you have to be careful with how you play it, because understand, Verge, like we talked about before, it's seeing a lot of positive sentiment from the community. If you go on their Twitter, they have a lot of support, and you can see even with this article here, there's all this positive sentiment that could lead to a lot of exuberance with a huge sell-off like we saw here. So you want to be careful. You don't want to just go with everyone else, play the hype. You want to buy the hype but sell the news. And so let's transition to Ethereum, because this is a little bit more of an optimistic technical analysis, in my opinion, in terms of looking for any potential upside as we're breaking and going through, you know, this whole market phase and cycle that we're in. And what's cool about Ethereum is it is following this long-term ascending trend line that we talked about yesterday, and now we're starting to see a little bit more strength to the upside. It's looking like Ethereum has finally seen its bottom, at least to the point of this trend line that's been forming. Therefore, being at these lower levels, remember, if you're buying at the support, the goal is to buy as close to the support as possible, because all you need to do is set up very tight stop losses, knowing that's a strong support, to keep yourself in the positive zone. So looking at Ethereum's technical analysis, in my opinion, We are starting to see this horizontal movement. We're seeing a little bit of an increase in volume, but what's most interesting is if we pull up this 1 day, we actually broke through this trend line that was forming ever since January 28th. So we had this RSI descent. It was a steep drop, and we've finally broken through that, but we haven't yet touched 40. So what's most likely going to happen with this RSI, in my opinion, is we're going to see this try to test 40, see a little bit of pullback, and when it does see pullback, that is when I'm going to probably initiate more of a long-term position in Ethereum, because recently I've been swing trading it, but now that it's broken this long-term trend line, in my opinion, it gives it a little bit more strength of a potential bull run coming soon, because as soon as this RSI passes 40, it's probably going to consolidate. It's going to descent back down to this as a support rather than a resistance, and then start its uptrend towards those higher RSI levels past 60. And then once that 60 is passed, that's bull run, take your profits. So that's pretty much how that works. Somebody says, talk to me about Invasio. I don't know what Invasio is, but we'll move on, Alan. Alex said, yes, I'm very confident on NEO and gas for the next 1 to 2 years. Yes, NEO, I'm telling you, NEO has seen quite the exuberance as well. It actually transitions us into this topic here. I went ahead and did a little bit of an analysis. I highlighted, as we've talked about in the past 3 days, all of the coins that have had over 10% gains in the past 7 days, and then coins that have had over 10% losses in the last 7 days. And the reason I'm doing this right now, like with where we're at in the market, is I think it's going to be important to know which coins are best poised for more upside. And they're typically going to be coins that have had the most downside, because once you see a large descent in liquidity, there's typically more liquidity that follows because people realize that this is becoming undervalued. So let's take some quick questions before we dive into this, but I want to look at certain projects here and talk about some that I am looking at to actually get in a long position. So Ronald R said, Oyster Pearl will explode at mainnet. Very good piece of advice. If y'all want to look up Oyster Pearl, a mainnet is a huge, huge feat for any project. When a project releases a testnet or a mainnet, it automatically increases its intrinsic value as long as there's a legitimate mainnet or a testnet, right? So somebody says, please tell me why ETN is still not doing anything. Chris Gladieri. I'll tell you what I think about ETN. So a part of being successful in this whole cryptocurrency sphere is having as much distribution as possible, right? That's why we have a distributed ledger. And Electroneum's goal from the beginning was to be a coin that could be distributed upon the masses and have easy accessibility. So, for example, they plan to allow you to mine Ethereum using your Xbox or your PlayStation or your iPhone or your Android. And because of that, it gives the opportunity for a lot of people in this world to mine coins that they previously weren't able to mine because of restrictions in compatibility of hardware, right? Like Bitcoin, you can't use a GPU right now and mine profitably, you know, in comparison to like an ASIC. So in my opinion, Electroneum has seen quite a bit of distribution already. If we were to scroll down here and look at Electroneum, what we'll see here at number 77 is it's been 2% down over the past 7 days. Not bad. It's right about 2 cents. It ICO'd right around a fraction of a cent, and that's where I got in. And I'm holding my position because I was in at the ICO. But my opinion is it's still a very valuable project. They just signed a very large partnership with, I think, over 100,000 users. So very, very good project. I'm still very bullish on Electroneum, and I think it has a lot of potential because of the amount of distribution it has amongst the community. Somebody says, do you have Oyster Pearl, bro? No, Ronald, I don't. I haven't done much research on that. Dennis said, Verge, a good coin. It's a great privacy coin. The reason I say that is it uses I2P protection and it uses the Monero type of ledger protection where you can't really see the past transaction. So I think having that dual capability gives it that intrinsic value. But remember, we're so early in this market that coins can be phased out with new technology as it progresses and evolves. So that's why sometimes being a swing trader, trading safely is important, especially at times like this where we're at these lower levels and we're uncertain to whether or not we're going to break out positive or negative. So somebody says, what coins are you looking at then, mate? I want some tips here. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Any other questions, or do we just want to get straight into coins? Nick said, is it a good time to buy Ethereum for medium to long-term hold? Yes, I think it is, Nick. going back to what we talked about earlier, or swing trading. I think swing trading right now, you have better bets with other altcoins, but if you want to swing trade Ethereum, I've done it. You can do it too. I did that 2 days ago. Somebody says, do you think XRP token will be used by Apple or just Ripple technology? Great days. Well, a lot of people use Ripple, like a lot of banks and institutions use Ripple, but they don't necessarily use the XRP token. But I think over time, as XRP gains more liquidity, people are going to become, or institutions are going to become more confident in utilizing the XRP token. So that's a long debate that's went on for quite a bit. Somebody says, any idea what the price, when the price will go back above 10K? That's a weird question. We did a technical analysis. All right, we don't got too many good questions here. I'm going to talk about these altcoins and we're going to end this live stream. Y'all are not asking good questions today, but that's fine. I love you still. Regardless of the fact, looking at these altcoins right now, we're pretty much in a phase right now where, at least for me personally, I am looking to build my portfolio for my long-term holds. And one coin that I do want to bring up here is the Binance coin. We're at negative 11% in the past 7 days. Not only that, they are expected to have a coin burn soon. They have frequent coin burns. And in terms of USD valuation, it's quite low. If we look at Satoshi valuation, it's seeing quite an exuberance, but what we're also seeing is support at these higher levels. So one thing I'd like for y'all to realize here with BNB is the hype has kind of went away into Verge, in my opinion, because you have this whole group of people that are pretty much hyped about coins. I think a lot of the hype has kind of went to Verge. People are not really realizing that, hey, there's still a lot of opportunity here, because remember, volume is starting to decrease. So what I like is the fact that we're finding a little bit of support at these higher RSI levels, because anytime a coin sees exuberance, you're going to see high RSI levels like we did with Bitcoin during the huge rally, where the RSI was constantly over normal levels, like you see here, where the RSI stayed above these higher highs. So looking at BNB's technical analysis, in my opinion, because we're finding a little bit of support up there, that could indicate that we are seeing a bull flag here to eventually anticipate more positive momentum in the next coming weeks as we approach the coin burn and as we approach further coin burns, as they do have them scheduled on a frequent basis. So I think BNB in general, as a coin itself being used on the Binance exchange, has one of the most intrinsic aspects to it, which is it's used by every trader that trades on Binance for the most part, the traders that want to save on fees, right? So in that context, I think that as the next couple of years unfold and we see more traders come into this market, the utilization of this coin is going to just continuously go up as the market and the emerging sphere grows, therefore allowing this to become more and more intrinsically valuable, especially because they're burning coins on a frequent basis. So number one pick right now, BNB, and we talked about this on a video actually. It was called the most undervalued coin of 2018. If you watched that, you would have known. And that was prior to the huge run-up that we saw recently, but now we're seeing some pullback, which is why I'm talking about Verge right now. Another coin that is on my radar is Nano. If you look at Nano, it's down 17%. They just had a lawsuit against them because of one of the individuals that had issues back when they had the exchange drop. He's basically forcing them to do a hard fork. It was a class action lawsuit. I think that news is going to bring down the value, but I think that's going to be an opportunity rather than something that's going to hold the project back. And just because there's a lawsuit in place doesn't mean it's lost its intrinsic value. I think it's still a great project. And not only that, you can see how it's already descending back down to these known support levels. Being at these lower lows, seeing that the RSI is approaching these oversold levels, I think this is also another project that's undervalued, and I do want to have a position in this. It probably won't be as large as my position in a coin like Binance or the BNB coin, but it will certainly be there. Another coin here, not over 10%, is Steam. Why am I mentioning Steam? Well, I think Steam is a coin that a lot of people are aware of, but a lot of people don't realize the value of. And understand the Steam platform is one of the most successful uses of blockchain technologies till this day. And the reason it's like that is because we have so many creators on this platform, especially on their Steam It platform, where they're creating content and getting paid utilizing the blockchain, right? They're not necessarily doing any sort of transactions between their users. They're just upvoting posts, getting paid. And because of that value and that growth that we've seen, I think that it's a platform that could eventually become like the Facebook or the Twitter of the blockchain sphere in the next 2 to 7 years. And the reason I say that is because we don't have any other social media platform like Steam out there right now, at least to the extent to what Steam has created. And social media is such a huge phenomenon industry. And in my opinion, Steam has a lot of potential in the near future. So not like Substratum, where Substratum is 5 to 10 years. I think this is more of a 2 to 7 year project. So I can expect Steam to see a lot of steam in the next coming months. You see what I did there? Hamburger Helper said, what's the ticker symbol for Steam? It's Steam. It's STEEM. Glenn said, pack Masternode coin. Good for you. Vincent in the house. When is it a good time to get into Tron? We did one of those yesterday. We did TA on that yesterday, Vincent. Watch that. Najib said, so I believe Santander's app OnePayFX is using XRP token. Good. Karan said, guys, Verge still a good buy at this price? Interesting. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. He said, what a great update. Glenna said, great project. Yes, absolutely. Alan, thank you. He said, I like your jacket. I appreciate that. Somebody said, what is the future of Litecoin? Litecoin is planning to be on the Lightning Network along with Bitcoin. I think Charlie Lee really wants to integrate Litecoin with Bitcoin on the Lightning Network because he sees that without Bitcoin on the Lightning Network with Litecoin, Litecoin is probably not going to be deemed valuable. So he's making sure that he can kind of attach himself to that. Nick said, BNB before or after the burn? I would say, good question. BNB before or after the burn? I would say it depends. It really depends. I would dollar cost average both ways because it's already seen exuberance towards it, but it's down 11%. So right now it's pretty much down. It's not up. So in reality, it hasn't seen the exuberance from the coin burn that we typically see around this time frame. So I think before the coin burn in the BNB case, but that doesn't apply to Verge because Verge is an announcement. It's not a coin burn. Very different. David said, always amazing analysis. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Mr. Car Magic said, red coin value, the coin that John McAfee pumped. I don't know. Tribe Nation put a question mark. You know what my mentor told me? He said, if you have a friend that sends you constant question marks, if you don't reply to them within like 2 minutes, they're probably extremely narcissistic because they can't see from your perspective that you're probably busy. I'm not saying you're a narcissist. I'm just saying that that's what I was told. Somebody says, Naeem, should we buy Elf, Verge, Ontology, Ubic right now? Why would you buy all the coins that are up? Oh my gosh. I don't think so. No. Why would you buy Ontology at 93% up? Yeah, you could probably gain more, but I think that there's more potential in other coins. Like, what if BNB becomes 96% up in a couple of days, just like Ontology did when a couple days ago it wasn't 92% up? Well, guess what? That's 92% of gains that you're missing out on when you're focused on what's already been done. See, the biggest thing in the stock market, especially when you do penny stocks, if y'all have done penny stocks, I didn't really like that penny stock phase of my life because penny stocks are just a whole nother ball game. But when there's a penny stock that already sees exuberance, why do you want to get into it? Look at the other ones. See, the goal is to find the projects that haven't already seen the exuberance in price. You don't want to buy in the green. You don't want to buy something that's 90% up. See, if I were to go to the car dealership and this guy said to me, hey, dude, this Corolla here, it's 92% above the price it was a week ago. But then this one here, this one's actually 17% down from where it was a week ago. You know, the difference is, well, this one has this one has this. Regardless of the fact, which one do you think you're going to go for? The one that's 92% up? Like, do you want to buy at a premium or do you want to buy at a discount, at a sale? When you walk into the store and there's a brand here that says toothpaste and it's for $1, and then you have the same exact product next to it for 50 cents, are you going to buy the one for $1? No. So if you're going to invest in Ontology, invest in it because you believe in its intrinsic value. And if that's the case, then go and invest in it and hold it forever, right? But if you're investing for a swing trade, look for opportunities. Don't look for what's already been done, in my opinion. So he said 130% ROI. Who doesn't want that? Exactly. Set up Twitter alarms. Tribe Nation said, Naeem, we should buy at a discount, so we wait until it's low enough. So looking at this market, another coin that I'm extremely excited about. Here, I'll actually pull this up here. Let me actually, 1 second. Let me see if I can pull up the coin market cap version here. 1 second. All right. So Zilliqa, this is an awesome coin, and I think it's still pretty undervalued. And if y'all don't know about the Zilliqa project, I'm going to show you the website here, just so that you have an idea of how this works. This project right here, in my opinion, hasn't really seen the exuberance that most projects have seen yet, but it still has a lot of intrinsic value. So here's a video. I highly recommend y'all watch this video. This is what I wanted y'all to see. It's called Meet the Zilliqa Team. I'm not going to sit here and talk about it, but I will link this in the chat if you're on our live stream. But you can search this up on Google. It's a video that pretty much goes through their team, and you know, for me, it helped me a lot. But just to get back on track, Zilliqa, if you look at its coin market cap, what you'll notice is it hasn't seen much of an exuberance yet. And typically what you'll see with most coins in this market is there is a time period where the coin itself had an extreme amount of hype or exuberance, and the price just shot up and rallied. And what I like to find with these smaller coins under 300 million in market cap is for them not to have that exuberance, because without that exuberance, it gives you more confidence to know that the price levels are reasonable and decent. So for example, this right here is not what I like when I'm investing into a coin for the long term. I don't like seeing this yet, because I want to make sure that it's still at these lower levels. Because see, regardless of what has happened over the past couple of months, if you were to purchase at these lower levels, you would always be at a profit. You'd never be at a loss. So as a long-term holder, I'm looking for these flat lines in my charts to ensure that I'm getting projects at a reasonable cost, especially if I'm planning to hold in the long term. So Zilliqa, in terms of fundamental analysis, it's the first real-world use case of sharding. And sharding is it's a way to enhance the speed and the scalability of a blockchain. And it's actually something that Vitalik proposed very early on with Ethereum, and it hasn't necessarily been implemented, but Zilliqa is the first use case of that, and it's currently, in my opinion, undervalued because it's still under 300 million in market cap. So that's another coin that I'm extremely excited about. Somebody said this is only the beginning. Yes, you are right. This is like the dinosaur era of cryptocurrency. Somebody says, I've been using Kyber Exchange with my meow. What? Did your cat just type on your keyboard? Somebody says, do you think XVG has good enough tech and team in place to become the everyday payment currency? I don't know about that, Lawrence. I think there are other coins like Nano that can have that potential, that have a lot more speed. Verge is more of a privacy coin. It's more of a niche, right? It's like Monero and Dash. You know, Dash has different capabilities, but Monero, for example. Oh, by the way, Monero. Look at Monero. Monero is down 12% right now. Highly recommend looking at coins like these that are extremely low in value in the past 7 days, because remember, we've already been at these lower price levels. So if it's down 12% in the past 7 days, it's really low right now. So obviously you want to do your technical analysis and your due diligence prior to investing, because you know, it might be 12% down, but there might be a fundamental story like what we saw yesterday with that coin that the CEO got arrested. You know, in that case, even if it's down, it's probably not a good time to look at it. Jeff said, I see big things coming to EOS. EOS, another project extremely bullish about. EOS just launched its Dawn 3.0 pre-release to its mainnet. It's been extremely successful, and they are planning to release their mainnet soon. I think a lot of projects are going to transition from Ethereum to EOS because of its speed. And a lot of these projects that go from Ethereum to EOS need that speed. They don't necessarily need the benefits of Ethereum more than they need the speed. And that's why they will go to EOS, because they can see an opportunity there for more speed and a better platform. So I am very bullish on EOS as well. Somebody says EOS will storm. Yes, as long as storm is a good thing. So he says, Naeem, it's the dinosaur era of cryptocurrency. Isn't it past its infancy? it's not past its infancy. I think we're still very early. Remember, we're in the early adopter phase. We haven't seen late majority. Remember, it's called the cycle of mass adoption. This is the cycle of mass adoption. Very important to know this because this is the cycle that we're going to see. It's what we saw with every emerging market. So we are only at this phase here, very infant, very, very early on. Here's a better depiction of that. Early majority and late majority is where we'll see the most exuberance. So innovators, we've got Vitalik Buterin, Roger Ver, early contributors of Bitcoin, early adopters. This is our phase. This is where we saw a little bit of that 20,000 run up. We saw all of these new projects, ICOs, things of that nature, new conferences, stuff like that coming out. And then what ends up happening is as this period comes into place, institutional investors, bigger companies, Amazon, Google, Facebook start adopting this technology. That's when you start to see the early majority come into the play, and then you start to see more retail stores. You start to see everyday use of the technology, and that's kind of like where early majority comes in. So we're still very early on. That's why our quote-unquote bubble was less than $1 trillion in market cap, whereas the dot-com bubble that was restricted to the United States, not a global economy like we have now for the first time ever, was $3 trillion. So if that was $3 trillion, then what is our bubble going to be if we are in a speculative market, which we are in because it's a speculative technology, but it's a technology that has a lot of use case and a lot of potential value in the future. So remember, we're in a great time, in my opinion, and you have to keep that in mind. Don't get disappointed. Somebody says, San is great. Yes. Emax said, when institutions start bashing crypto but buy up exchanges and set up crypto hedge funds on the side, that's when you know it's going to explode. Yes, the Rockefellers just announced investing in crypto. You've got the the large hedge funds getting into it, so it's definitely moving forward. So do we have any other questions before we wrap up here? Ron Thomas has just joined. What did I miss? Abraham said, what are the benefits of ETH? Here's what I will say before we wrap up. This might be something practical that could help you. I would highly recommend all of you opening up Bittrex accounts if you haven't already. They just opened up their doors for new users, and you want to have that flexibility to get on any exchange you need if you want to get a coin, because sometimes the coins aren't listed on every exchange. So highly recommend you all get on Bittrex if you haven't already. And then if you wanted to predict that Verge or BNB, exuberance, follow us on Twitter as well. We're constantly posting there, and any news updates will be posted there, and it's constant and daily. So this was an interesting little infographic of proof of work versus proof of stake. But other than that, I think we're going to wrap up soon. I don't see any more questions. Keith in the house, McLovey in the house. Good to have y'all. Thank you all so much for watching today. I think that's it. We're going to wrap up. Yes. Somebody says 400 likes and you grow your beard and then shave it on cam. No. Man, these Twitch people are crazy. Let me switch this. All right, guys. And all right, no more bets. We're talking crypto today. We're not talking about beards. Love from Germany. Thank you. I appreciate that. Good day. Take care, Samuel. Take care, Magic. All right, y'all. And that's it for today. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that update. If you haven't watched it, just rewind the live stream. But we're in a great time in the market. Bitcoin is uncertain. It's in this symmetrical triangle. We're going to wait and see. Is it going to break out positive or negative? We're seeing these lower highs, or these higher lows and these lower highs. And it's either going to bounce off of this, consolidate, find support, and then see the breakout, or it's going to break out negative, in which it will most likely break down past the previous breakdown levels of 6,000. So that's a quick recap of that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this live stream, and until our next one, snipers out.